Hey, today I'm talking about 3 80s Willem Defoe movies that are really good. And the names of those 3 films are Triumph of the Spirit, The Loveless, and Platoon. Oh, that's two is Triumph of the Spirit. This is a 1989 film based on a true story of Greek boxer who got thrown into one of the concentration camps during World War II. So it's mostly just about his experience and his family's experience in this concentration camp. And it's great. It's really, really well done. They nailed the emotion. They nailed the gruesomeness of the experience. Willem Defoe gives an amazing performance. Really, all of the actors did great, but there's just something to be said about Willem's performance. He always crushes it, but like, so good here. But yeah, it's probably up there as one of my favorite World War II films. Definitely one of my favorite about the experience of being in a concentration camp. So yeah, I without a doubt recommend this movie. It's very, very good, but also very, very sad. So definitely emotionally prepare yourself. There is some debate about the truth, in particular from the boxer, like if you kind of exaggerated a bit with his story. But I think regardless of whether or not he was honest in his happenings, the film captures the general experience perfectly, I feel, so that even though his story might not be true, the general story of this movie is true to the people that experience these tragedy. So yes, real good, definitely worth a watch. Next up is The Loveless. This is a 1981 film, and it is Willem Dafoe's first starring role. And the basic premise is, I'm going to be a bit vague, because a big part of the experience of this movie is just figuring out what's going on, just kind of watching and experiencing the movie unfold for itself. But most simply, Willem Defoe is a greaser biker guy in 1950s rural America, and he stops at this diner and then just kind of chills out for a while. Does he have a goal and motivation? Yes, but I'm not going to tell you ahead of time because it takes a while for him to say it and it's interesting. So yeah, no, this film was just really good. It was just a really good vibe. I'm not a huge fan of 80s nostalgia for the 50s. It's a weird subgenre that I just don't really care for, but I think in this instance it worked, partly because Willem gave a great performance like always, but also I think because the story wasn't like, yeah, it's technically nostalgia, but I think it's more just about the vibe and the experience. So like, it's not just being like, oh hey, look at this thing from the 50s, oh look at this thing from the 50s, wasn't that cool? It's more just like, here's people doing stuff, and the backdrop is cool things that you remember, maybe. Another thing I find interesting about this movie is that Willem's character is definitely more of a gray person. Like, he does do good guy stuff, but he does a couple shitty things. Nothing like character destroying, but it's like, he's not a saint for sure, which made the whole journey much more interesting. So I would again recommend this one, though I'm not sure if everyone could handle it just because it is kind of a slow and quiet movie. It definitely picks up as the story goes on. It definitely has a big ending, but the slowness throughout might be a bit of a deterrent. So if you're curious, I would say go for it. But like, after like the first 10 to 15 minutes, if you're not feeling it, you're probably not going to be along for the ride and you can probably stop. Though I do think it's worthwhile to stick the whole thing out if you can. And lastly is Platoon. This is a 1986 Vietnam film. Willem Defoe is the top-billed actor, but Charlie Sheen is definitely the lead. The premise is Charlie Sheen is a rich boy who decided to volunteer for Nam, and it follows him in his journey in this platoon. And it's really, really good. They nailed the emotion totally. And it was such interesting inter-character stories, things that I was not expecting. Also, fun fact, this is the first Vietnam film directed by a Vietnam veteran. It's kind of neat. So it's a fairly authentic experience. A little thing that I did like was that, yes, the Vietnamese are the enemy, but they didn't just demonize them. Like, there were moments where the characters kind of fighting amongst themselves about treating these people like they're nothing or treating these people like they're people, especially civilians. And I thought that was very, very well done. And I'm glad they included that, the human element of war. Yeah, I don't have any complaints about it. It's really, really good. I just didn't connect to it as much as the other two. Charlie Sheen gives a decent performance. I wish Willem Defoe would have been in it a little bit more, but It's fine. Yeah, it's just another really good film. And it's definitely an anti-war film. That's another thing that I really liked about it. There's a tricky line with anytime you're making a war film. Is it going to be a pro-war film or an anti-war film? And even if you're trying to make an anti-war film, it could still look like a pro-war film because you're making things look cool. But I think they did a good enough job of showing the horrors well that it's very firmly planted in the anti-war subgenre. So yeah, if you're looking for another good film to watch, look no further. It's great. You're in for a, well, sad but interesting time. Alrighty, now for today's rankings. First up, we got Triumph of the Spirits at number 32 in the really like section. And then not too terribly far behind is The Loveless sitting number 34, also in the really like section. And then bringing up the rear is Platoon sitting number 49, again in the really like section. And this is a total of 192 old movies so far this year.